They said he was too young. They said the empire was too vast. They said it couldn't be done. History has a way of proving skeptics wrong, especially when that history is written by a golden-haired prince with the tactical mind of a master chess player and the ambition of a god. What would you accomplish if you believed you were born of Zeus himself? In 336 BCE, a Macedonian teenager inherited a kingdom. 12 years later, he owned the world. This isn't just the story of Alexander the Great's military campaign. It's the blueprint of how sheer audacity, tactical brilliance, and a cult of personality can reshape civilization in a single generation. The assassination that changed everything. Picture this. Philip II of Macedon lies dead on the palace floor, assassinated during his daughter's wedding festivities. The kingdom holds its breath. Who will lead now? The answer comes swiftly as a 20-year-old Alexander moves with decisive force, eliminating rivals and consolidating power, with the same ruthless efficiency that would later become his battlefield signature. The Persian Empire watches from afar, perhaps relieved. The old king is dead, replaced by a mere boy. The ancient superpower, stretching from Egypt to India, could breathe easy. It was the first of many fatal miscalculations. Within months, Alexander secured his northern borders, crushed a Greek rebellion at Thebes with shocking brutality, and turned his gaze eastward. The message was clear. This was no ordinary succession. This was a hurricane gathering strength. The impossible crossing. The Persian king Darius III commanded a force 5 times larger than Alexander's when they met at the Granicus River in 334 BCE. The Persian nobles positioned themselves across the steep, slippery banks, smirking as the Macedonians approached. Crossing under these conditions was military suicide. Alexander's generals advised caution. Wait until morning, they said. Find another crossing. Their young king rode to the front, surveyed the opposition, and gave a one-word command: advance. What happened next became legend. Alexander personally led the charge into the river, directly targeting the Persian commanders in their glittering armor. The battle devolved into chaos as the Macedonian phalanx somehow secured a foothold on the far bank. When Persian noble Mithridates hurled his javelin at Alexander, shattering part of his helmet, Alexander drove his spear through the Persian's chest with such force it emerged from his back. By sunset, the impossible crossing had become the first domino in the collapse of Persian authority in Asia Minor. The Gordian solution. But how does a 22-year-old maintain momentum against the greatest empire on earth? The answer came at Gordium, where an ancient knot was said to grant mastery of Asia to whoever untied it. For centuries, the intricate knot had defied solution. Alexander approached, studied it briefly, then, in a moment that perfectly captured his approach to empire building, drew his sword and sliced through it in a single stroke. When conventional solutions fail, change the rules. This philosophy underpinned Alexander's most extraordinary tactical victory the following year at Issus, where his 40,000 troops faced a Persian force of 100,000. Darius III had chosen the battleground carefully, allowing his numerical advantage to dominate. Alexander's response? He refused to play by established rules. Rather than engaging the Persian line conventionally, he identified weaknesses in the Persian left flank, created a deliberate gap in his own lines to bait the Persian center forward, then led a lightning cavalry charge directly at Darius himself. The Persian king fled, abandoning his mother, wife, and children, who became Alexander's captives. With this single battle, the psychological dynamics of the entire war shifted fundamentally. The city that couldn't exist. Perhaps nothing exemplifies Alexander's refusal to accept limitations more than his siege of Tyre in 332 BCE. The island city sat half a mile offshore, protected by 150-foot walls and the Mediterranean Sea itself. When Alexander requested permission to sacrifice at the city's temple, the Tyrians suggested he use a temple on the mainland instead. His response? I'll come to you. Engineers called it impossible. Alexander called it necessary. For 7 months, his men constructed a causeway to the island using trees, rocks, and the rubble of old mainland Tyre. Each time the Tyrians destroyed their progress, Alexander built it wider and stronger. When the causeway finally reached the island, he deployed siege towers 7 stories high, rolling them against walls that had never before been tested. After the city fell, Alexander crucified 2,000 survivors along the shoreline, a grim message to any who might consider resistance futile. The God King's new clothes. What truly separated Alexander from mere conquerors was what came after victory. Unlike previous invaders, he didn't simply replace Persian governors with Greeks. Instead, he married Persian princess Statera, adopted Persian court customs, and integrated Persian nobles into his command structure. "I didn't come to destroy Persia," he reportedly told his disgruntled Macedonian veterans. "I came to transform it." This wasn't just conquest, it was fusion. At the legendary banquet at Opus, Alexander arranged 9,000 Macedonians and Persians to dine together, with himself praying for harmony and partnership in empire between the formerly bitter enemies. Though his veterans initially resisted this cultural integration, Alexander's vision was centuries ahead of its time, a universal world empire transcending ethnic divisions, the final frontiers. By age 30, Alexander had accomplished what military historians still struggle to explain. He'd conquered territories from Greece to India, founded over 70 cities bearing his name, and established Greek as the common language across 3 continents. But something drove him onward. At the Hyphasis River in India, his exhausted army finally refused to march further. Alexander reportedly secluded himself for 3 days before conceding. The only battle he ever truly lost was against the limits of human endurance. What compels a man who owns half the world to risk everything for the other half? We'll never fully know. In June 323 BCE, at just 32 years old, Alexander fell ill in Babylon and died. The empire he built disintegrated almost immediately without the force of his personality to hold it together. Yet the Hellenistic world he created, that fusion of Greek and Eastern cultures, survived for centuries, setting the stage for the Roman Empire and, by extension, the modern Western world. One young man, 12 years, a completely transformed world map. History rarely offers such perfect case studies in the sheer force of human will.